Hello, welcome to the channel that aims to bring some light into games left in the dark. This is From the Void. Today, we'll be looking into some hidden gems or underappreciated games on the Nintendo Switch. Games that I feel deserve more attention, whether because not enough people know about them or realize how good they are. If you enjoy this and want to see more hidden gems on the Switch, please consider subscribing to the channel. First one on the list is this beautiful game here called Earthnight. As you can see, the most striking feature here is the presentation, especially the art style. Just a very detailed, kinda handmade 2D art. As for this game's setting, get ready for the coolest setting ever. This game takes place after a dragon apocalypse. I don't know how this wasn't a thing before this. I mean, it's the greatest idea ever, right? A dragon apocalypse? Come on. And it keeps getting better. The player has to skydive from space straight into Earth's atmosphere swarming with flying serpent dragons. Then, you drop down on top of one of these dragons, run all the way through it until you reach its head and then stab it to death. Then you skydive again and keep going down until you reach Earth's surface. As for the gameplay, Earthnight is a side-scroller roguelike platformer auto-runner. But don't dismiss it just yet, cause I know what you're thinking. An auto-runner? I hate those, yeah, so do I. But this one manages to use the runner mechanic in a positive way. It works like a Sonic game actually. The higher you get, the better. You find better stuff, shortcuts and less enemies. The controls are what differentiate this game. You can run faster or slower, drop down faster by pressing down in midair, and this is what gives you back a lot of the control that an auto runner usually takes away. It's still not perfect, I mean, there's still a lot of luck involved, but the moment-to-moment gameplay feels great. And as for the gameplay loop, this is a roguelike, meaning you'll fail a lot, you'll die a lot, slowly getting better and better and unlocking a bunch of power-ups to use in future runs. Earthnight is not as difficult as other roguelikes, like Spelunky for instance, but there is a serious challenge, especially in the final stage. It will most likely take you around 8 hours to finish, but if you want to find all the secrets, it will probably double that number. In conclusion, unless you really don't enjoy the roguelike loop system, you should really enjoy this game. Regardless if you like autorunners or not, believe me. Now, this next one, I feel like nobody even heard of, and I cannot understand why. This is OVIVO. Not sure I'm pronouncing it correctly though. Just look at the style of this game. It feels like you're side-scrolling on a tattoo or something. When you finish a level, the camera pans out like this and shows you the entire thing, and it's super neat to see the artwork of each stage. The gameplay is unique, although extremely simple. You basically control this ball that cannot go uphill. So whenever you need to go up, you just press the button to switch from white to black, which have opposing gravities to each other. In the white, gravity is downwards, and in the black it's upwards, so a hill becomes a valley, and vice versa. It takes a few seconds for you to grasp this mechanic, but very soon it all becomes just second nature, and you will be flipping around from white to black super fast and gaining all this momentum. There are some portions where finding your way forward can be a little confusing, and there are some artifacts and collectibles scattered around to provide some additional challenge if you want. But this game is short, running around 3 hours total, with 1 or 2 extra hours if you wish to find all the collectibles. In conclusion, I can proudly say that this is a true hidden gem, since I see no one talking about it. Pick it up, it's not expensive at all. Next on the list is Sparklite. In the visuals department, this game is a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. I admit I'm a sucker for pixel art, but this just looks delightful, doesn't it? The world is vibrant and colorful, and the music accompanies this vibe very well. Sparklite is set in the land of Geodia, an artificial world created by 5 wise men. However, there is someone trying to corrupt the foundation stone, and it's up to you to prevent them. As you probably already gathered, this game plays very similar to a top-down Zelda game. You attack with one button, other gadgets can be equipped in other buttons, and you also have a dash. It's a time-tested gameplay that never fails to be enjoyable. However, Sparklite is not on the same level of quality of any Zelda game, so don't go in expecting that. But it's still a very enjoyable game, and even has some traits of personality that sets it apart from a Zelda game. First of all, this is sort of a roguelike, which may be a turn-off to some. You have your main hub area where most of the NPCs reside, and every time you take the balloon down to the world below, it has shifted and will be different each time. I admit I wasn't a fan of this when I first started playing, but it didn't bother me later on. I mean, I would prefer a more fleshed out world, but this provides some incentive to keep exploring and finding all the hidden items. Secondly, there are the patches. You have a set number of spaces to place the patches in, and they will increase your damage, defense, life, and many other things. This is cool, it caters to your style of gameplay, and your choices feel very meaningful. And finally, you have the widgets. These are equipable sort of spells that are lost every time you die or return to the hub, but are very important to survive in the final area, as they are the only means to heal or revive in the game. It really doesn't look like it, but Sparklite is kinda hard. You only have 3 hearts in the beginning and won't be increasing them by a lot as your patch spaces are limited. So you will be challenged until you get yourself some important patches to improve your odds. Then the game gets fairly easy until the very end, when it tasks you with 5 consecutive gauntlets with hordes of goblins to defeat. This last part feels too steep of a spike in the difficulty and it kinda made me mad. But otherwise, the challenge was fair. By the way, if you wish to finish this game, do look for every one of the little creatures called beats, because finding all of them will provide you with the best patches in the game. Sparklite will last around 10 hours before you complete it. This is a beautiful and fun game on the Switch that has its problems, but is still very positive and deserves some more attention. Another slightly obscure game I need to talk about is Return of the Obra Dinn. Return of the Obra Dinn is very stylish looking. It's a 3D game, all in black and white, with very interesting shading, which grants it a unique and eerie feeling that goes really well with the setting. It takes place on a stranded ship that had previously vanished for a long time and just reappeared drifting near a port. Upon embarking on it, you'll find it completely lifeless, but full of dead bodies. That's a pretty interesting setting right there. It also has a very unique gameplay, where you have to uncover how each person died with the aid of an artifact called the Memento Mortem that shows the moment of their death. By just looking at a short playback of the person's final moments, you need to figure out who that person was, how they died, and who killed them. That is a much more difficult task than it sounds, since you only have a log of each of the ship's crew and passengers, but without a matching photo of each one. And you also have some photos of all of them together, but without a matching name to each person. It's a detective game, and that may sound boring to you, but with the aid of the artifact, it becomes so much more interesting, since you'll be witnessing some pretty unexpected and awesome moments. Figuring out the murders becomes very challenging closer to the end. It will require the player to think outside the box and be very attentive to details. It will likely take you around 9 hours to complete this game. It's the second game of Lucas Pope, developer of Papers, Please, another unique game that is a joy to play through, by the way. But this one is a huge step up in both the visuals department and depth of gameplay. It's a geniusly crafted game, and for fans of mysteries, a must play. Give it a try. Moving on to Ape Out. This is a Devolver Digital published game, so it's not as unknown as some other games on this list, but I feel like it deserves more recognition. This game goes for a stylistic look that I had never seen before. The top-down view coupled with the walls and columns that stretch out beyond and far away from the camera grants a very unique look to this game. The colors are divided into boring gray shades for the walls and floors, and very intense and vibrant tones for the ape and the enemies. This contrast makes it very easy to spot the enemies, which improves the gameplay. The music is another highlight for sure. The tracks go really well with the gameplay, but even better are the sound effects that play drum beats or crash cymbals to your every strike. This makes you ridiculously more pumped to play the game. The setting is easy to grasp and engaging as hell. You are just an ape trying to escape a high security facility using your superior might and speed to overwhelm the guards. And by overwhelm, I mean violently smash their bodies against the wall. The gameplay is simple. You move around quickly as the ape and must either push the guards or grab them to use as shields. It's a frenetic gameplay that is easy enough to learn in about a minute, but provides enough depth to leave you addicted for hours. The normal mode is easy in the beginning and will provide some challenge later on, but never becomes frustrating. But it's short, lasting around only 2 hours. There is another mode called Break In, where you have to go all the way inside the facility and then leave it. This mode is also super cool and will present a bit of a challenge, adding roughly another hour to the duration. The harder mode, however, is much more satisfying in the beginning, but later on becomes almost impossible, requiring some mad skills and even some luck sometimes, especially in the cargo ship levels. This will make the duration shoot up to around 8 hours, but it's mostly because you will be dying so many times. So I would suggest sticking with the normal mode and the break-in. Regardless of the duration, this is a kick-ass game. Highly recommended, pick it up. For the next entry on the list, I'll be covering a spectacular game called Baba Is You. The graphics in this take a far back seat, just very simple sprite works and animation, and there is no context to speak of. It's clear that the graphics are not important whatsoever, but that's because all of the developers' creativity went to the gameplay. This is a one-of-a-kind puzzle game, and it's a brilliant one. You start controlling this dog-like creature named Baba, but that's only true because there's somewhere on the screen a text that reads, "Baba is you." You can mess around with the text by pushing them, and that's the main gameplay aspect of the game. For instance, you can switch the word Baba with the word wall, and now you control all of the walls. It's crazy, and it soon becomes much crazier. It's super interesting. Now, this is what will make or break your interest in this game. Baba Is You is insanely challenging. There's a large number of levels in this game, divided into several worlds. You don't need to beat all the levels in a world to progress to a new one, so you can kinda pick your challenges, but each world will introduce new programming logics for you to mess around with, and it soon becomes very challenging. Considering that you won't be looking up solutions online, this game can take you several dozens of hours. It took me over 30 hours to beat this game, and I still go back to it time and time again to beat the stages I skipped. In conclusion, this is a masterfully done puzzle game, and even though it presents some of the tallest challenges for a puzzle game out there, it is just immensely rewarding. If you're a puzzle fan, this is 100% for you. Next up is an awesome and very unique game called Sever. This was originally released for the PS Vita, Wii U, and 3DS in 2016, receiving a port for the Switch later on, but I feel that regardless of the system, this game didn't receive as much attention as it deserves. The simple but very effective art style that is a staple of Drinkbox Studios is back, very similar to the two Guacamelee games. The setting is great and kinda dark. The protagonist lost all her family and one of her arms, and is trying to save their souls now. It's an interesting setting, and it doesn't feel oppressive to the player somehow. Once I explain the gameplay, it may turn you off, but I suggest that you keep listening. Severed is a first-person dungeon crawler, turn-based RPG with touch controls. And normally I would not be drawn to two things on this description. First, the fact that it is a first-person dungeon crawler, because it usually is reserved for more niche games that are super long and hard, and I already play Etrian Odyssey and my quota for that style of game is already filled. But this is not the case with Severed. This is not a long game at all, and it's not grindy as your typical dungeon crawler. Second are the touch controls. I usually hate those because they're not precise. But it works really well on Severed, since the touch programming is well made, and if you have a stylus pen for the Switch you can get some surprisingly accurate precision. It's highly recommended to use the pen, by the way. Of course, there are still some obvious drawbacks with this style of control. You'll have to play this game 100% in handheld mode, which is not the greatest thing because of the Switch's short battery life. And also you'll have to find a good way to hold your Switch comfortably and still be able to do the swipes with the stylus. This takes a little bit of practice, but I promise that after 1 hour of gameplay or so, it finally sinks in and you will be good to go for the entire game. Severed is challenging but not unfair. You will die a number of times and it will be your own fault. This game lasts around 10 hours even if you go for all the collectibles, which will grant you a better ending. In conclusion, this is a surprisingly high quality game that does not overstay its welcome and will constantly throw surprises your way. Do not dismiss Severed, on the Switch or wherever else you can. Hey, thanks for watching and stay tuned for the next episodes. Let me know if you enjoyed this any way you can, as this is still a work in progress. See you later!